kaikki Rosebudin lukevat ihmiset tänne paikan päälle ja sitten streamin äärelle. Jag har en stor ära att presentera Mikael Niemi.
Kiitos paljon. Olen Mikael Niemi Pajalasta, pohjoisesta Ruotsista. Minä puhun vähän meidän kieltä sanomaan. Se on torniolaisen murre, Suomen murre. Mutta tänään minä tarvitsen puhua ruotsia tai englantikieltä. Minun suomea ei ole good enough.
Ja onko yleisöstä voidaan päättää tässä lennossa, että mitä kieltä puhutaan? Et toivotteko, että olisi englanniksi vai ruotsiksi suomennuksin? Jos on ruotsi käy, niin nostakaa käsi ylös. Kanske på engelska då. Jo, vi kan prata vad som helst. Men först av allt, welcome Mikael to Helsinki.
Kiitos paljon.
Ja sä esiinnyt Helsinki Lit-festivaalilla on Friday. Tomorrow you'll be talking there with Rosa Liksom. And we are talking about this book that just came out this year in Finland and a couple of years ago in Sweden.
Joo.
Eli Silkkiin kääritty kivi. Oikeastaan mä tiivistän tämän nopeasti ja sitten voit kertoa äderet. It's a book about a family, but also about how the working class organized themselves in Pajala in Sweden in the 1930s. Which one was first, the story of the family or the story of this movement?
It was the story of the movement. I have known about the working class people in the north since I was child, and the first question when I was young, why was it so many communists in Pajala? And it sounds like a joke, but it was. In the elections, the local elections, it could be more than 50% voting for the left party, and then 20% for the Social Democrats, and then there's 1 or 2 votes for the for the Conservatives. Why was that? It was because of history.
So you tell the story of the time before this happened, that Social Democrats and Communists were in charge of Pajala. You begin from the point where the ones who have everything rule about everything.
In Pajala, it was we were the last area in Sweden to have the union movement. I mean, in Stockholm we had Hjalmar Branting, 1890. In Kiruna we had the mine with the labor working people from 1900. But in 1930 it was still a feudal society in Pajala. And why was that? Probably because we didn't have industries. We didn't have big industries or mines or so there. And also because people spoke Finnish. It was the Finnish-spoken area. And the people from Stockholm who came up and wanted to talk about the socialism and the working class movement, they were speaking Swedish. And it was not until 1930 that a meänkieli spoken person started to talk, because he had been in South Sweden. Gottfried Harju was his name. He came back to Pajala and started to talk in Finnish to the local people. And then when did the movement.
There's a joo, eli koska suomeksi ei syntynyt ammattiliikettä eikä liittoja, koska Pajalassa oli paljon suomenkielistä väkeä ja tämä liikehdintä esimerkiksi Etelä-Ruotsissa tapahtui hyvin eri aikaan. Ja sitten Gottfried Harjun myötä hän tuli sinne ja alkoi puhua suomea ja sitä kautta työläiset ja he, jotka ovat ollut niin kuin ikään kuin torpparin asemassa koko elämänsä, saivat tietää asioista. There's a very strong scene when Eino Vanhakoski, one of the main characters here, wants to vote but is denied. Yeah. Could you tell me about Eino and this scene?
Eino Vanhakoski is one of the main characters, and they said officially you could vote. Everyone has a free vote. Even the women had a free vote in Sweden 1930. But when he goes for the election, he's denied. He cannot vote 1928. And that is because he was poor. There were some special rules if you have debts for the Swedish government for taxing, not paying taxes, or if you have had social help from the government, you couldn't vote. That was changed later. So it was really not a democratic situation then in Pajala.
Ja Eino Vanhakoski on köyhä, hän ei omista mitään, hän ei saa siksi äänestää, vaikka kaikille pitäisi olla avoin äänioikeus, mutta Eino ei saa äänestää, ja tästä lähtee yksi iso tarinalinja. And the Vanhakoski family paints a perfect picture about this inequality that rules in Pajala region in the beginning of the 1930s, because Eino's brother Wilhelm has taken over the house, their family house, and owns everything. And then Eino is left with nothing. Well, he's left with the beautiful, wonderful wife, Sara, but they literally they don't have anything to build on.
No, and Wilhelm is getting the rich brother, not rich, but the more wealthy brother, and Eino is the poor one. And I know many people. I have met these people. When I was in my 20 years old, they were old. They were in my age, like now. And many of them were intelligent people. But there was no money. They couldn't go to university. They couldn't educate. So they had to stay, to work in the forest, to be hard working with your body. Body labor working. So that is Eino's situation. And he has one project in the book. He wants to make terva from the forest, terva tar. Mm-hmm. And we can read maybe some short part of that.
Yes, let's do that.
Pajala is in the northeast of Sweden. Have anyone been to Pajala? Some people. Very close to Finland, only 25 kilometers from Finland. And when you go to Finland, there is a village there, Kolari. So I have Kolari in my book and in a place there. And Kolari, the name Kolari from Finland is because they made a lot of coal. So that's, and even in the symbol for Kolari, you have the burning coal. Have you seen it? Yeah. So we read a short bit of that.
Mikael lukee pienen pätkän ruotsiksi ja sitten mä luen Jonna Joskit-Pöyryn suomennoksesta vähän pidemmän pätkän sitten.
Yes, we read in Swedish first short and then in Finnish a little bit longer. Hela vintern fick de uppdragna stubbarna ligga och vänta. När vårsolen smält snön gjordes det sista arbetet. Man finhögg träet till mindre späntor som varsamt lades i varv på varv till smilan slutligen täcktes över. Det började bli dags att tillkalla Juhani Mettevainio från Kolariby. Han sågs av alla som den främste kärbrännaren i trakten.
Maasta revityt kannot jätettiin odottamaan talven yli. Kun kevätaurinko sulatti lumet, oli vuorossa viimeinen työvaihe. Kannot hakattiin pieniksi pilkkeiksi ja ne aseteltiin huolellisesti kerroksittain pyöreään hautaan, joka sitten peitettiin. Sen jälkeen olikin aika kutsua apuun Juhani Mettävainio Kolarin kylästä. Häntä pidettiin yleisesti koko seudun etevimpänä tervapolttajana. Hänellekin luvattiin tuntuva palkkio. Se oli välttämätön kulunki. Juhanilla oli viikset, joiden kärjet hän kiversi kuin vanha majuri. Hän puhui honottaen, koska hänen kitalaessaan oli aukko, ja hänen kätensä olivat aina mustat, vaikka hän olisi juuri käynyt saunassa. Millä olette haudan peittäneet? Turpeella, Eino tankkasi kuin opettajan kuulustelussa, ja sammalella ja maalla ja vähän muullakin. Kate näyttää liian heppoiselta. Kerrokset täytyy kastella, ei läpimäriksi, mutta kostuttaa. Juhani kiipesi notkeasti haudan päälle ja kokeili jalallaan, minkä verran se antoi periksi, etsien liian ilmaviksi jääneitä kohtia. Ilmeestä näki, että hän oli tyytymätön. Kuinka hölmöä, ettei häntä ollut heti kättelyssä pyydetty haudanrakennuksen valvojaksi. Mutta tehty mikä tehty, hän ajatteli. Ei auttanut kuin pitää heidän risukasastaan huolta tästä eteenpäin. Nyt joku, jolla on ne yhdet päivät, Juhani vinkaisi lopulta. Kukaan ei tuntunut ymmärtävän. Paikalle kerääntyneet katselijat vilkuilivat toisiaan. Vuotopäivät, Juhani sanoi tuimana. Sytyttäjän pitää olla sellainen nainen, jos tervaa mielitte saada. Niin miehet kuin naisetkin menivät hämilleen näistä aiheista, kun ei yleensä puhuttu ääneen. Hetki siinä supistiin, ja lopulta paikalle noudettiin muon karjakko, joka posket punaisina talutettiin väkijoukon halki. Juhani neuvoi karjakkoa viemään tuohisoihdun miilun luo, ja tämä työnsi sen varovasti syvälle haudan sydämeen. Tovin kuluttua turvekatteen sisältä alkoi tihkua savua, aivan kuin laineikkaita, harmaita hiussuortuvia, päälaelta kasvavia hopeisia hapsia. Tack.
And this project with the terva, it's first it's a success, but then it turns out to a disaster. So Eino's poorness is getting more and more severe during this book. It's also a book about the closeness to Finland. So in Pajala, we share a lot of the history with Finland, with Finnish culture and Finnish history. So, and the more I have been writing about this, the more intense is I noticed the similarities. I have studied a lot facts, historic facts, before I wrote this book, and one of them, the stories was during the Civil War in Finland, 1918, 1919, 20. It was a really disaster poverty in the Finnish side. So they sent a Swedish women journalist up to the north, and she went, Esther Beda was her name, and she went to Finland to maybe to Kolari and those areas, and wrote about starvation, really starvation. And then she was staying in Pajala, so about 100 years ago. And then, you know, of course, then you have the Winter War and all this. So it's and also the closeness to the Russian culture was also very important. So when the working class movement came to Pajala, the right-wing people, the conservatives, were very afraid. They were scared because maybe the Pajala Torniolaksolaiset would start a revolution, a communistic revolution. So it was strong feelings. Maybe you can make a short...
Joo, eli ensin Mikael puhui siitä, miten tähän liittyy myös niin kuin Suomen olot, ja hän on tehnyt paljon historian ja faktatutkimusta ja muun muassa niin kuin sisällissodan aikaiset ja sitten nälänhätä, mikä oli niin kuin Suomen puolella fakta, niin ovat vaikuttaneet tähän kirjaan. Ja myös se, että miksi se Pajalassa oli erityisen niin kuin ehkä niin kuin tässä kirjassakin on hyvin tulehtunut ja vaikea se se tilanne, kun työläiset alkaa järjestäytyä, että sitä todella pelättiin, että syntyy tämmöinen vallankumous suorastaan.
And in my book I have a person who is from Finland. His name is Kalevi. And you are reading people, of course you understand Kalevala maybe, something from that. No, he's like a little bit like a symbol of Finland. He is very skinny when he comes to Pajala, but he's a survivor. He never dies.
He's truly a survivor.
Like Finland.
Yes. So the Vanhakoski family, you could call your book also a saga on Vanhakoski family, because then we also have Siv, who is the granddaughter of one of these main characters in the book. I won't spoil anything because there are a lot of mysterious things going on also about the family relations, but basically Siv doesn't know who is his grandfather, and also there's a lot of tragic things have happened to her father's mother.
Mm. Yeah, Siv is important. She's the person who lives nowadays in the modern times, and she remembers back what happened to her old relatives. But she has also some quality. We have a word in Torniolaakso. It's ennustaa. You can feel before something happens, and we have it. Really, such people in Pajala still. I know them, and I like to have a person like that in my book, because it gives a strong. What do you say? It's not only about the material things, the material struggle. It's also about the spiritual thing. And this book, it's so strange. It's about the working class fight in Pajala. The first lecture I had in Stockholm was in Storkyrkan in Sweden with a priest. We were talking. There was a lot of torniolaksolaiset ihmiset who listened to my book 2 years ago. And yesterday in Uppsala, I was in the Tuomikirkko with another priest and talked about Siv, so maybe it's something spiritual too in this book.
There's a lot of spiritual things, but they are not from the Bible. This spiritual thing.
No, so
but there are also priests that try to, like manata. They try to exorcise the spirits from Siv, but they cannot win. It's impossible to win this. Yeah.
Well, we have in Torniolaakso we have a big movement of the lestadiolaiset ihmiset, the religious people there. And 1930, on what side would they be on? On the rich people or on the poor people? And when I'm in Sweden, I'm talking about this. I also always mention that you have read the Bible, at least some parts, and the main character in the New Testament, who is that? His name is Jesus. He was a carpenter, and his father, Joseph, stepfather, you can say, but he was also working with wood. They were labor people. So probably they have been in the woodworking union today, if they live now. And Jesus was for the poor people. He was really trying to defend them. So there was a possibility, I think, that the lestadiolaiset people would have gone on the poor people's side. And they were thinking about but sadly it didn't happen. They went to the conservatives' side and defended and became very conservative politically after that. And they said to people during the preachings that if you go in the union, if you are a member of the union, you will go to hell. you have one-way ticket to the hell. So it was really a bitter and hard struggle between the religion and the working class.
And it's really heartbreaking in the Vanhakoski family how these ideas about going to hell or being a communist actually break up the whole family. It's really heartbreaking. It has severe consequences.
Yes, my former book was made Karhun Keitto. It was about the Lestadian movement, and the main character is the priest, and he's, of course, it's Lars Levi Lestadius, but I call him the priest in the book. And he was really also for the poor people. He was not a socialist, absolutely not. But he was also trying to get people to have a little bit better materially, education, not drinking so much alcohol and like that. So if Lestadius would have lived, maybe he would have taken the side of the working people. But that didn't happen.
Were you, inspired is a wrong word here, but were you thinking about nowadays and politics, what is happening right now, when you wanted to write about I mean, it's again very actual, actually very, it's happening all over again, that the ones who have it all, they have even more, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Klyftorna ökar, we say in Swedish. It's more and more bigger distance between the poor and the rich. Yes, it's true. I think I wanted to write this book because I'm getting an old man. I'm 65 years old now, and when I look back in my life, I've been writing the whole my life, and I wanted to write a book about my people. I also did that in the popular music from Vittula. This novel was also about my people, but it was more about the young people. Here I wanted to have a more longer time distance. It's almost 100 years. And I'm so happy I did. And people, yeah.
We are so happy that you did. We obviously it's 25 years since populaarimusiikkia Vittulan jänkältä, but you could.
And this man Timo was guiding me all around. It was terrible. I hardly survived. I call him Vergilius. He was always taking me down through the hell.
But now we are. I'm lucky that we are here, back from hell. and this is truly, I've been amazed by the reviews that I've been reading about your books here in Finland. One after another is saying that this is the most important thing that you have written, and this is like the magnum opus, and the comparisons with Väinö Linna has been very often read in the reviews. How does it feel for you? Do you feel that this is something, one of your main works of art? Or
I'm really so happy that this book had been such good reviews in Finland, and it's really, I'm so really happy for that, and to be here in Helsinki to speak about it. About Väinö Linna, it's so special because he's one of the most famous Finnish writers, as you know, and his books, his trilogy, Saarijärven trilogy, was in my mother's and father's bookshelf. They had the books in the bookshelf, and I decided I will read them someday. Yeah. But it was to be a special day because they are so good. Everyone's told me they are so fantastic. But then I had this plan to write this book. From maybe 10, 15 years ago it started. And then I realized I couldn't read Väinö Linna's trilogy before I finished my own book, because I felt I would be probably copying him. So I have been waiting for all this time, without reading, I promise you, not a word from this trilogy. But now when I finished it, and it was also released in Finland this winter, I have read them, all 3 of them. And I say fantastic, Nobel Prize level. I had read the Tuntematon sotilas before, but not the trilogy. And he is still one of your really, really great things. And I'm so happy I did the right choice not to read this before, because there are many similarities. So I see that, but I can say honestly, I didn't copy him.
Yeah, and the reviewers have said that it has the same big ethos of a big book, of a so important story about the working class and about a family. So that's kind of the.
Yeah, and in Sweden they don't know about this story in Pajala. They don't know it. They know about the Swedish history, but the Pajala history is not known. So this is also news from for the South Swedish readers. And what's also interesting, it will be translated not only to Finnish and Norwegian and Danish, also to French, to German, and to Italian also. I'm writing about the local people. I use their real names, like Einar Uusitalo had a small part in the book. And I'm so happy to think that in Italy, maybe an elderly Italian woman in Toscana, sitting, opening my book, and maybe a glass of white wine, looking up on the mountains, and she's reading about Arne Ylipää and Einar Uusitalo. And it makes me so happy to see. And I used his real name, Einar Uusitalo. He was only 18 years old when this strike happened. And he has told in an interview, so that's why I'm using his real name in my book. And if he only knew that his story would be read in some big parts of Europe.
Yeah, all around the world. And then one last question. We have 2 minutes left of time. I would like to also point out that this is also a story about minorities and children and women. And about language minorities, I just want to thank you about the stories about the children, because they are not often written either.
No, it's I have children myself, and that's a big part of my life. It was 600 pages. When I sent it in the manuscript. And the last thing I did before I sent it into the Swedish book, my book company editor, was to take away 100 pages because it was so long. And this is still my thickest book. I am always in Sweden, I say, you get a lot of letters for your money. But I will never write a big book like this again. Next time will be smaller. Save some trees.
Tack Mikael Niemi. Kiitos Mikael.
Kiitos Maarit.
Upeasta kirjasta.
Kiitos.
Ja sitten varmasti signeeraukseen on aikaa myös, niin tulkaa ihmeessä. Kiitos.